Hi, this is another Google Hangout, and today we're going to be discussing the new development that we are discussing at the equal money proposal, which is basic income. And what we're going to be talking about today with Maite and Leila and Brix, they're all in South Africa right now. So hi guys, welcome to the Hangout.
Hey, hi Marlen.
Hi.
And so what we want to discuss with you is, first of all, how did we come to the point of now taking on basic income once again?
Sorry, we didn't get the question.
How can you describe how we got to the point of taking on basic income again as a proposal for a solution to the problems we're currently facing in the world?
Well, basically what we saw within proposing the equal money solution is that it is way too advanced at the moment for people to grasp what it's really about, and basic income would be a solution that's closer to home and would, as a temporary point, already solve all the problems that we're facing today.
Cool.
Yes, and also in just looking at the basic income proposal and just investigating the options within it, it doesn't have to remain with the proposals that are now out there. And there's actually a lot that can be done within basic income itself, and adjusting the economy and the political systems in such a way that basic income itself can be a sustainable solution pretty soon.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, is that we're basically looking at what political and economic solution can be implemented now or as soon as possible, rather than dreaming up some utopian system that is not realistic and that a lot of people wouldn't agree to. I mean, there are many suggestions and solutions out there that just can't be implemented, but this is actually possible and it's realistic.
Great. So what about the current state of the world in relation to basic income? We've known of projects like the one in Namibia and the whole movement in the EU. What about you guys? What have you looked at in terms of maybe how to develop this solution for South Africa or anywhere else in the world? What's your perspective right now? Like, where could it work the most, or where to begin with this whole basic income point?
Well, we looked at currently there's a lot of research been done in South Africa in terms of implementing a basic income grant. Lots of proposals, it's gone through government, but there's no official answer been given yet. And in reading on the proposals, it's still a very limited proposal. They're only suggesting to give 100 rand per person per month. And if you've been to South Africa, you can't do anything with 100 rand.
Exactly.
Exactly.
What is the equivalent of that in euros?
The equivalent of that in euros is about 10 euros. 10 euros per month per person as a basic income grant, which is really nothing. And also here in the economy, if you have been in South Africa, I would say people would probably mostly buy something like alcohol with it, you know, to drown their sorrows rather than creating sustainable solutions. Now, obviously, what they've been looking at is the poorest of the poorest. And on average, they live at the moment on 114 rand per month, something like that.
Wow.
So in giving 100 rand per month per person, you're doubling their income. So that's how they've looked at it in terms of, you know, giving them some additional support to make things easier. But if you look at, for instance, in South Africa, the Constitution has this beautiful Bill of Rights involving housing for everyone, sanitation for everyone, healthcare for everyone, and 100 rand a month is not going to realize that in any way whatsoever. We're required to do a lot more than just 100 rand per person.
Absolutely. What about in terms of the changes, the main proposals? Because we know that what the Equal Life Foundation, what we're proposing now, is not the same as what the basic income grant is all about right now. Can you talk about a little bit of the main changes, like the main proposals that are currently not being seen by the current basic income movements around the world?
Did you get that?
No, I didn't get the question.
Can you rephrase the question?
Yeah. What about the changes, the main changes that are being proposed in our basic income guaranteed, wherein, for example, we're talking about in terms of taxes or in terms of the minimum wage and the basic income? How is that going to work? How is it being proposed at the moment?
Well, in terms of the proposal that we're looking at doing it a bit more intensive as the other income grant proposals, where, for instance, for South Africa, we would say the basic income grant would at least be 4,500 Rand instead of 100, and then the minimum wage would be 9,000 Rand a month. So with that, obviously you need to fund this type of income for each person, which means there's also going to have to be some more economic reforms that are going to have to take place to be able to finance those points. So in terms of us having a higher expectation, we'll have to be more invasive in terms of the changes that's going to have to be made in the economy in terms of how things function. And there, for instance, we're looking at the point of nationalizing companies and stuff to be able to fund these incomes.
Yes, in essence, create a social dividend system.
Which can be read. Go, Anna. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, what is the difference between when the proposal suggests to give 100 Rand per person, and then now the suggestion for giving 4,000? Was it 4,500? Like, what is the difference in how the basic income grant is seen? Because that's quite a vast difference. So what's the difference in the two principles?
The difference in the 2 points is with 100 Rand, they're mainly trying to eradicate extreme poverty, to give people at least some way of, participating in the economy. But then you're not talking about the economy of the middle class and your rich people in South Africa. You're talking about, in villages, the informal economy, so that they can set up a tiny little business. And if they maybe pull together their incomes, they can set up a little informal business and through that attempt to support themselves. When you're looking at 4,500 Rand a month, you're going to be able to much easier in a legal way, how it's supposed to be. I mean, we shouldn't be encouraging crime with a basic income grant. With 4,500 Rand a month, you'll be able to provide for your family. You'll be able to send your kids to school. You'll be able to have a house. All your basic rights that everyone should have access to. And so, in essence, changing the economy so that the economy is in service of people and not the people having to suffer because the economy is doing that.
Great. So it's essentially the economy becoming the actual foundation for human rights, which makes perfect sense because none of our constitutions, none of our economic models have actually worked that way. No. What about you guys mentioned the nationalization of resources. Can you just expand upon that point a little bit?
Okay, well, here we're looking at that all the resources within a particular country should assist and support the citizens of that country. So any profits that are being made from working with a particular resource, like, say, oil, the profits should go towards the people to assist and support them, and not to some transnational company somewhere else where all the money just flows out of the country. So from that point, we want to see if we can nationalize the companies that handle the resources of a country, and then through that probably only partially fund the basic income.
Great. Anna, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, what did you mean by social dividends, Maite? How is that going to work?
Well, social dividends means that every citizen should be a shareholder of every company that has anything to do with resources that are needed and that are being worked on to provide your basic human rights. So every citizen becomes a shareholder of all those companies. Now, it wouldn't work in the same way as shareholders now, where everyone who's a shareholder gets a part. It would be more like all the profits would come together in a type of fund, I suppose, but not really. It would be more automated than that. But in essence, you would receive your share as a basic income grant when you need it, the same way as your insurance companies work, your unemployment funds work. But so it's all in one point. And so all the profits are always distributed in such a way that those who need it are supported, and no one ever falls out of the boat.
And that includes actually the capitalists, meaning the people that currently own the corporations themselves, because they would also get money, which is why this is also an important aspect for people that own corporations and that usually fear any form of support that can be given to every individual, because then they fear losing what they have, which is also an innovation in terms of how we're handling basic income. Can you expand a little bit on that as well?
Well, I think what people are going to like about the basic income in contrast to equal money is that we're still going to be fueling me with basic income. What's going to happen is that as people have more income, they'll be able to spend more, and thus corporations will be able to make more money because there's more demand for their products.
Exactly. Any questions, Anna?
Yeah, you were saying, Maite, that people will get the basic grant when they need it. And so I was thinking that this is probably a question that a lot of people would then ask is, how will that then be prevented from being abused? Or how will that be managed, what people need and who needs what, and preventing that that people don't abuse the system?
Well, people who need it will be very clearly defined in terms of if you have a job, then you are receiving at least a minimum wage that is double the basic income grant. When you receive double the basic income grant, there is no need for you to also now get money from social dividends. It's a simple point. You don't need it. And that's a point that can very easily be registered. I mean, for instance, in South Africa, we're now going to introduce the electronic identity card, and it's just a matter of including that information on there, and from there through an administrative electronic automated system, the funds can be distributed accordingly. It's just a matter of, does the person have a job? Yes. Does the person have a job? No. And accordingly, you distribute the money. It's very simplistic.
So this actually goes in hand with changes in how money works as well, in terms of now moving more onto the digitalized money instead of the cash, that it's more prone to cause corruption. Is that correct?
Definitely, yeah. Exactly. And here in South Africa as well, corruption is a very big problem. And to have a simple automated system that doesn't involve much human involvement will reduce corruption massively. I mean, it will aid the economy immensely. It will also reduce a lot of the inequality that we can see right now in this country.
Absolutely. There's going to be like many topics to open up with this aspect, because we're looking at education, tax systems. We already talked about resources, but also what about the individuals? Like, how are we going to still handle that aspect of, for example, not abusing the money for drugs or booze, which is also a problem there and everywhere in the world. Do you guys have any current way on how to approach this aspect?
Well, at the moment, it's still going to mostly be a point of self-responsibility for the individual, where the individual will have to decide what happens with the money. I mean, there's no way we can control what everyone does with the money. But what we do know is that once people get a decent income, they start to respect themselves more, and they will naturally stay away from self-destructive behavior such as drugs and alcohol and work towards bettering themselves. That's also what
Yeah,
we've
I
seen
remember.
in Namibia.
I remember that Maite and Leila told a story about how it is common that pregnant females here in South Africa will actually drink a lot of alcohol so that the child will be born with birth defects. Because when a child is born with birth defects or is handicapped, you can get money from the government. And so obviously that kind of self-abuse and abuse of your children where you're completely desperate and you do something like that so that you can get more money will be prevented because everyone will have that basic income already. So there's no need to abuse the system from that perspective.
Sounds great.
Yeah,
What
I
about
also see that alcohol is very much related to stress, and stress is mostly related to financial problems, and maybe not necessarily. Obviously, you'll have those problems also in families who have a income, but the point always exists of what if the economy is doing what it's doing right now, and your job isn't stable anymore. There's no security. You don't know what's going to happen the next day, and you have a child or your wife's pregnant, and the stress just accumulates. So with a basic income grant, you have that security always. There's always a safety net. It's going to reduce so many problems, psychological, and then obviously in terms of the solutions people look for it, which is your alcohol and your drug abuse.
Exactly. What about the incentives? This is like the last question. In terms of, before we were speaking about like all people would be equally paid, but now we're looking at the basic income proposal that says that people will get more money the more they study, which is now the incentive that people require to continue educating themselves. How does this work now?
Well, it still works on the same principle, meaning money will still be an incentive where on the basic income grant, basic income guaranteed, you'll have your basic needs taken care of and you can live an okay life. But to have the nice things in life, you'd have to go and get a job and work so you can earn double the amount. So from that perspective, it's still the more you give to society, the more you will receive back.
Cool.
And then the same goes with education. The more you invest in education and yourself, the more you will receive in return.
Okay, so that's like a primary change from our previous approach to this point. Anna, do you have any last point to ask?
No, but I think that that's a very cool point, and it will be interesting to see how people will embrace it.
Definitely, because right now no one really wants to live in this system and educate yourself just 4 years to get no job and to get a shitty lifestyle. So right now this sounds great. What about, guys, if we continue discussing this topic and open more areas of what basic income include next week?
Sure.
Okay, cool. And then we will actually place a setup with the Google moderator for questions so that you guys watching this can write out your questions. It will be published in our new Facebook page, which is Basic Income Guaranteed by Equal Life Foundation. You will find the link in this the video section, the info section of this video, and there we will now begin publishing also our new Hangouts in a new channel. So stay tuned. We will let you know all about these changes, and thanks for watching. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.